What's up gamers, it's your boy, JKon. If you didn't know, I am a huge Valorant fan, both of the game and of the professional esports side, and Champions is about to begin in a few days. A lot of people, like famous people, have been putting together their Pickems and top players heading into the tournament, and I thought that I would add my opinion into the mix too. So today, we'll be starting out with my Pickems for the group stage, and then we'll get to my list of the top 20 players I think are going into the tournament. Let's get started. PaperX versus Crew Esports. I'm gonna go with PaperX. I'm a paper boy. PaperX will have something during this tournament, and obviously we saw them go on a crazy run at Tokyo with CGRS, so I think with something back in the lineup, they're bound to go really far. Next, I believe in Kong supremacy. High key, I think Giants versus EDG has a really high potential for an upset, but I think personally that I am going to go with EDG because Kong's a monster. Going to the upper bracket, I will say PaperX beats EDG just because Paper Boys. Crew versus Giants. I think Crew's run was really good. I think Kesnet has been performing like an absolute monster. Just an absolute beast, just top tier player. But I think Giants are gonna pull it out. I think Giants are really consistent. I'm pretty high on a few of their players like Nookie and Cloud. So I think they're gonna go forward for it. And again, I think this has really high upset potential, but I think EDG is going to take it from there. Moving on to the next group, Group B, EG versus FPX. I'm going EG. Finally, an NA team is rocking. Not saying that we haven't had NA team success in the past with the old Optic Core, but it's nice to always have an NA team being from NA. And honestly, NA has such a bad track record across all the other esports that it's nice to have some teams to root for. Foot versus T1. This one's really tough. I think Foot didn't look as good at Tokyo comparatively to how they looked in EMEA, and I think T1 is still kind of on the upswing, so I'm actually going to go with T1 here. I think T1 is a little bit better there. And EG versus T1, I'm going EG. Down below, FPX versus Foot. I think FPX showed a few things, but honestly I think they have so much role swapping that I really couldn't keep track of who plays what, so I'm sorry, but I'm gonna go with Foot here. And the rematch, Foot versus T1, I'm gonna go with T1. I think T1's gonna take it. All right, let's go into Group C. Fnatic versus Zeta. This is one of the most heartbreaking matchups. When I saw the group draw come out and that this was one of the opening matches, I was like so heartbroken. I'm a really big Laz fan. I've been rooting for Zeta. I think Zeta is pretty great, but going into Group C is such a tough spot for them. So I'm definitely voting for Fnatic on this one. Going for energy over Billy. Yeah, of course, NA Pride. I think Billy did all right. I think at Tokyo they did okay. Wizzy kind of didn't perform as what people expected him to perform at, but I still think Billy's not too bad, but I'm gonna go with them. Fnatic is definitely taking it over energy. Zeta's taking it over Billy. Again, I believe in Laz, especially if Zeta can like nail out their chamber comps. I think they have like a pretty good chance, but one of the things that I think holding them back is that they are an LCQ team, and I think if you're an LCQ team, you had a lot less time to prepare. Same with like the Chinese teams as well. They had to have another tournament to qualify 2 champions to get in. I think having so much film out there is going to be problematic, and I think with Finesse's brain, they'll be able to read Zeta, and I think they'll have enough games against Zeta. Even if Laz is popping off on chamber, I still think that energy is probably going to take it there. Group D, the group of death. This group is insane. The fact that you have the EMEA winners here, you have the NA winners here, you have the runner-ups to Pacific, and you have Navi. I know Navi's kind of been trolling really recently. I still think Liquid will play better. I think Nats and Safe are just playing at an outrageous level, and I really don't think that Navi's players like Sugetsu or Shao can beat them. So I think TL is going to take that. DRX over Loud. I know Loud high-key has been reported on drama or whatever going on there, but I think I'm more confident in Loud than I am DRX. I think DRX, they haven't really figured out what they've been doing. They kind of got a little bit stale. So I think I'm just going to go with Loud on that one. TL versus Loud. I think Loud's going to go on a run. I think Loud's going to beat them. I don't think it's that big of a deal. It's probably overblown. Honestly, the drama was like, oh, they went back to Brazil to practice and Aspas stayed in LA. So I don't think that's that big of a deal, honestly. Yeah, you technically miss out on a little bit of scrim time, but like Aspas is a monster. And I know at Tokyo, they kind of showed weird comms, especially because Aspas was jet opping the entire season, and then they switched it up to Raise Neon during the tournament. I think that was kind of weird, but if they go back to what they were honestly dominating with, I think Loud will go on a run. High key. Navi versus DRX. Sorry, Navi. I think DRX will pull something through. I think Buzz and RB are probably going to pop off. Mako will be stable as always, but I think this is going to be a lot closer than people think. DRX versus TL. I think this is also going to be really close, but I think TL is going to take it. So these are my pick'ems for group stage. Please let me know what your picks are for the group stage and see if we have similar thoughts and whatnot, or if you decide somebody else is going to go on a crazy dark horse run. Let me know. I'd like to know. Let's move on to my top 20 players that I think going into Champions. I spent the time and kind of research to already go through it and decide with my own criteria and whatnot. So here is the aggregated list, and yeah, let's go through it. We'll start with the honorable mentions down below, and we'll kind of give a little bit of reasoning as to why, who is where. But I wanted to give a shout out to Cloud. I think he's an insane initiator. I think he's probably the best player on Giants next to Nuki. And I think he's just insane. His utility usage is just really good. And I think he's a standout, but it's a top 20 list. It's really hard. Same kind of reasonings for Xiao. I think he's an insane initiator. I think if Navi stopped trolling with their comps and they actually put people on their proper roles, I think Xiao is insane. And like I said earlier, Suigetsu is also just an incredible player. Him and Xiao have been Navi's saviors, but I don't think that those two will be enough to top their group, as I showed in my pick'ems. So let's start out with the top. Number one, I think Leo is the best player in the world. I think I definitely have kind of an initiator bias, but I think Leo is the best initiator in the world, and I think he's the best player in the world. I think the way he uses utility is just unmatched. The fact that he can play all the initiators from Sky, Fade, Breach, like etc. He can play all of them, Flash and Info initiators. The fact that they won Tokyo without him ever playing his best agent, Sova, whose Shock Dart utility is just unmatched. And the fact that they didn't even have to use that says a lot about him. Another thing about Leo is he's incredibly smart with his positioning. He's always good for a clutch. And the thing is, he does not feed early. The fact that it took 96 rounds for him to get a first death is insane. So the fact that you have a godlike utility info initiator that knows how to use his utility and timings, the fact that he knows how to clutch and anchor extremely well, and the fact that he doesn't feed, so his utility will last longer, especially if he's playing a mid-rounder initiator like Sky, is incredible. And I just think he's unmatched, and he's the best player in the world. Number two, Durka. I think Durka is a contender for number one. I think easily swappable between Leo and Durka, but for me, I personally like Leo. The fact that Durka can play Raze and Jet at a high level is kind of unmatched. I think most of the main duelists that we have in VCT right now in all the partner leagues, a lot of them cannot switch between the two agents. Usually a lot of them are just good at Jet, and that's why you have a secondary Raze player. Look at 100 Thieves, for example. You have Asuna that plays Raze on NRG. You have Victor that plays Raze. Durka is probably the only one. I think that the only other person that might have kind of an all-right Raze that kind of is comparable is Aspas and maybe Kong Kong. But for the most part, I think Durka is one of the best flex between the two. And I think he just performs at an absolute top level. The fact that he's the tip of the spear all the time for this team is really good. And I mean, he's Durka. I think everything that has been said about Durka has already been said. He's a cracked player. Moving on to Alpha. The fact that Alpha here has been on Sentinel duty this entire year, and he's just been playing Killjoy at such a top level, but he's putting up such insane numbers that I could even argue that Alpha is a better player than Durka. Just putting up numbers for the team, I think Alpha has just been an absolute demon child this season, and the fact that he's just been doing that much work on Killjoy, he can anchor site, he can clutch, he can entry, he can just do whatever you need him to do. The demon kid will do it, and he's just an absolute monster. Well deserving to be in the top 3 player of consideration for this tournament. Number 4, I have Something. I think this one might be a little bit contentious for a few other players, just because one, he did not play at Tokyo, but I think Something is the best entry fragger by far. I mean, you could compare him to Durka, but I think Something entries better than Durka, but I think Durka is just an overall better player because of his flexibility. But I think Something can be the tip of the spear. The fact that he's just an absolute beast, and I'm so excited to see him at Champions because we missed out on Tokyo, because this guy will pop off, and I guarantee that he's going to put up an absolute insane performance. He's something else, pun intended. Rounding out number 5 is a third Jet Opera main, and that's Aspas. Again, Aspas is so good. I think if you give him an op, he is one of the best players in the world, top 5 easily, and I think he can hard carry Loud. Genuinely, if they stop trolling with their comps and they just give him an op, Aspas will carry your team. Enough said. Moving on to number 6, Chronicle. The fact that a 4th Fnatic player is in the top 6 of my list is just a statement to how crazy their super team is. I know both Boaster didn't make my list, but Boaster is an incredible in-game later. The fact that he's able to bring all these guys together. But we're talking about Chronicle here. Chronicle is one of the most flexible players in the world. He can play literally any agent at a top level and carry from that position. The fact that he was on Viper duty for a mass majority of the season and he was just dominating, he's something else. I think personally that you could rate Chronicle up there with Leo, Dirk, and Alpha, and you can kind of interchange the four of them. They're that good. But Chronicle's flexibility and his ability to just play pretty much any agent in the game has just unlocked this team to be so stable. I think the agent flexibility that a lot of these players have just allows them to play whatever, but they have such set roles, but so good in those roles that the options are kind of endless for them. So I'm super excited for them to just take over and see what's coming up. Number 7, I have Forsaken. I think Forsaken is kind of underrated a little bit of just his ability to play this game. The fact that he started out as Opper and then he has transitioned into playing Harbor, into playing Killjoy, into playing any role that this team needs to continue W gaming is insane. Him and Jing, who obviously you see at number 9, just put together an absolutely insane performance, and Divide too, to just carry this team to that top 3 finish at Tokyo, and I love them. I'm super excited to see what him with something back can really do. I feel like they can just do an incredible amount of work and they're going to be absolute monsters. Number 8, I have Kong Kong. I think Kong Kong is the best opera in the world. I think you give him an op, he single-handedly will carry you to victory. He has just the showboating, the swag. I just love him. The fact that he has such a presence and energy on stage is just so exhilarating, and he's just so much fun to watch. The fact that he can pop off at any given moment and just he'll stare you down. Just the Kong Kong stare is just, it's legendary. So Kong Kong, enough said about him. I think he's amazing. Number 9, Jing. I think Jing is the best race player in the world, and the fact that he will now have his original partner in crime of something to just absolutely decimate people and go in is just crazy. I think Jing put up an insane performance at Tokyo of just being that tip of the spear for the team and really embodying W gaming. Like, this mofo just double satchels in and you know it's over. But now he has something diving in with him, and it's going to be even more over for people. So Jing, I'm just super excited, and I hope that he has a great champions. And rounding out the top 10 is Devi. I think Devi is super underrated. I think the fact that he has such a great agent flexibility and is playing basically everything from initiators to whatever this team needs is just amazing. The fact that Devi has also been helping out with calling with Forsaken as like a secondary caller, he's just been putting up absolute numbers. Devi is the glue to this team, and I really genuinely don't think their W gaming system works if Devi wasn't playing as well as he is, and his utility has just been so on point. Same with Forsaken. I think they've just been working together as such a great team, and I think Devi is just really underrated, just super underrated. So he's in my top 10. Number 11, Demon 1. This kid is an absolute beast. Single-handedly turned EG's team around, and the fact that they went on this incredible run not only through playoffs but at Tokyo when he was able to attend is just a testament to his raw skill. The fact that he is not just playing Jet, he's playing Brimstone for this team, and he's putting up those exact same numbers is incredible. So I think he's one of the best players from North America, and he's hard carrying. He's a monster. Number 12, I have Les, the second best player on Loud in my opinion. Les kind of underperformed a little bit in my opinion going into Tokyo and at Tokyo, but I think with a little bit of time to regain form and them to figure out their comps again, I think Les will continue to be just a top player. He is so insane. I think he has such a great mind for the game, and I think his clutch ability is just really good going through this tournament. I think they're going to go on a run, and I think Les is going to be a big reason why, especially as he takes over more calling duties from Sadak. Number 13, it might be a little too high, might be a little too low depending on who you ask. I have Mako. I think DRX has just been in such a free fall. Like, they've been on the decline for such a long time, but I think Mako has just been continually putting up numbers. I think if they're trolling with Foxy9 and Zest, and I think they just need to iron out a 5 and just really play through that, but I think Mako still has continually played quite consistently, and he's just a beast. But the team has been struggling a little bit, so I want to see if Mako can continue to have a great performance here at Champions moving forward. Number 14, I have Nats. I think Nats is an incredible sentinel. I think he's very underrated in my opinion, because I think people are kind of forgetting about the power of Nats. I know everyone's been on Killjoy duty, but he's kind of been whipping out Cypher from here and there, and I just think Nats is just an incredible talent. I think he's been one of the best players in the world, and he deserves his flowers, and I think he single-handedly was carrying Liquid at Tokyo. Not saying Safe didn't perform that well, but Safe was hard carrying them in the regular season, but now Nats was playing really well at Tokyo, so I'm thinking that Nats again will have another great pop pop-off performance, and I think he'll do well for Liquid. Moving on, 15, I have Psalm. I think Psalm is probably the best North American smokes player. Psalm is really, really good, and I think the fact that he's able to play pretty much every smokes agent at a pretty high level is insane. The fact that his harbor was really, really good, and I think he's just an incredible talent. I know he kind of had that choke moment on Pearl, and it's going to kind of live with him, but I hope that doesn't affect his mental too much, because it is a new tournament here at Champions. The prize is even bigger, so I hope that he will continue to have pop-off performances. But the transformation of Psalm from originally being like a Jet player, going to smokes, going back to Jet, and now going back to smokes and being such a great player, I think he deserves his flowers. 16, I have Ethan. It might be too high, might be too low, another one of those, but I think Ethan's utility usage is one of the best in the world. I think the fact that his flashbangs and just timing of utility is just so good. If you ever look at the scoreboard, this mofo hits double digits on assists every single game. Like, he is just so good. Sky, Breach, his flash timings are just so pivotal to EG's entry, and like him setting up Demon 1 or Giacomo on their entries is just really, really well done, and he knows how to play for himself for utility. I think Ethan's just a really consistent player, and I think he's a monster. He deserves flowers. 17, I have Safe. Again, was hard carrying Liquid, like I said, with Nats, especially during the regular season. He was the hard carry. I think he'll again have another great performance. Put him on Jet, give him an op. Safe is going to pop off. He's really good with a rifle as well, and I think him and Nats are just going to have to really stand out in order to have Liquid to move forward in this tournament, because without those two popping off and Yampi playing consistently, I think they might struggle. Number 18, Boostio, another one that might be too high, might be too low. I think Boostio is insane. He's a very, very momentum-based player, but if he gets going, I think Boostio can take over a game. The fact that he can easily outfrag Giacomo and Demon 1 on his team says something. The fact that he can outfrag Ethan, not saying Ethan isn't a good fragger, but Ethan's a great person to set people up. And I think the fact that Boostio is also the caller, and if he has that momentum and he's calling good, they can go on a run. I think Boostio is great. 19, I have Smoggy. I think Smoggy is really underrated. I think the fact that this guy is the ultimate hyper flex, the fact that he plays Breach, he plays Raze, he plays Jet, he plays Killjoy, he plays literally everything that this team needs, and he plays them all at an incredible level. He is Kong's right hand man. No matter what it is, Smoggy sets this boy up or he goes in with him, and the fact that they can flip-flop double duelist when they want to is just incredible. I think Smoggy is so good, and I think he's going to have another standout performance in this tournament. And last but not least, number 20 on my list, I have Crashies. Again, this might be an initiator bias here, but Crashies is just so good. His Sky Flash utility is just incredible. His Silva darts are amazing. Of course, his Shock Dart utility is great. I think Crashies and Psalm are pairing together with just their utility combination. They can set up Artist and Victor to really do a lot of work. And I think Finesse is a great caller, and I think Energy is going to go on a run. And I think Crashies is just still one of the best initiator players in the world. So yeah, I think that's it. And that's my top 20 players list going into VCT Champions 2023. Please let me know if you agree or disagree with any of my picks, and let me know who is in your top 20 going into the tournament. I know I definitely picked a few players on there that others might agree or disagree with. Let a brother know. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please feel free to like the video and subscribe to the page for more content. And of course, stay hydrated. Peace.